Hello, Matthias. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
You see, Elisha, thank you for having me. I am cold, finding myself today
You
on
mentioned
this wintry Wisconsin day, but doing great.
beautiful. Sorry about the cold, man. Okay,
It's
yeah,
winter.
yeah, it's winter. Got it. So it's so nice to have you on the show today. And you see, oftentimes, Matthias, I love to thank my guests for two main things, and I do this so often to the point where I think it has become my anthem because I say it often. So, firstly, Matthias, I want to thank you for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, Matthias, some months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because, sorry, the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. I just walked past it. But you see, Matthias, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around a lot's changed about the tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. You see, the mango tree now has got a lot of mangoes on it and beautiful green leaves, and the branches were so healthy. Not just mangoes, but ripe mangoes. You see, it was a beautiful one that day. I was just standing there in amazement. It was amazing. It was a beautiful experience, and I was just staring at the fruit, and it was beautiful. Now, my point is the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing person that you are today. That alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you see you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of your work, your insight, and all that you're doing. It's amazing. So thank you for investing in yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite, Matthias, because if you had said nope, there was nothing I could do about it. Thank you so very much, man. I truly appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisha.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So let's get started. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, Matthias, I believe it takes the application of knowledge. And not just knowledge, but the application of it. And you see, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge, and darkness means ignorance. I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Matthias on the show is for the sake of the listeners. You see, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got a lot of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, powerful information, of which I am totally convinced, Matthias, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. Right now we are so curious. We want to know how Matthias got here. Then afterwards, I've got some really beautiful questions for you. Okay, Matthias, over to you.
Thank you, Elisha. And thank you to the listeners too for taking the time this morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening. My name is Mathias Lemos Castillo. My story really starts in Montevideo, Uruguay, which is in South America. Born, I'll throw it in the 90s, so I'm a 90s baby. And I migrated here to the United States in the 2000s. So I've been able to experience two cultures, my culture back home in Uruguay and the culture here in the United States. And both have been very, very rich and very grateful for having those experiences, primarily in community. I think thinking about my life in Uruguay, I've always been centered around my family and those around me. There was an economic crisis in 2003 that led us to move and found myself in cold Wisconsin, working with, my siblings younger and my mom and my dad. So it was a small family. and growing up here in Madison. So my story here has been going to school, elementary through college. And after college, I had this really unique opportunity to work nationally with MIT, the Massachusetts Institute for Technology, exactly doing the work that I'm going to preview in a minute, doing community work. So engaging with people, aspects of life in urban, rural settings, holding space for conversations to do around what's working, what's not working, and how can we improve our country. Very interesting conversations. I was doing that between 2017 to 2021, when then COVID hit. Midst of the pandemics, this project wasn't able to continue because, we were doing it in person. We pivoted to Zoom. We're trying to reconvene, but as a nonprofit, it wasn't working. We had to shut down, which then in 2022 led me to start my own consulting firm, MLC Consulting, which it is my name, but I've been saying it also stands for 3 words: mobilizing, listening, and connecting. And it's really at the center of that work that I really lean in, where I'm still doing community engagement work with the leadership development process. And, how do we center the voices of those who are often underheard in our processes? So working with government, local nonprofits, private sector, and seeing how can community engagement and engaging the voices of those around and those that are often not heard be brought in and centered as we move together. So that's a little bit about me and my work. Been doing it for 3 years. Been really enjoying it. Now in 2025, I'm in year 3 and seeing the growth and the possibilities given the status our country finds ourselves in.
Beautiful. That's amazing. And I love the meaning of the abbreviation MLC, mobilizing, listening, and connecting. Right. Study.
Correct.
Right. Beautiful. So I'm just curious right now. Can you talk more about that? The first mobilizing. What does it mean as to what you're doing?
Yeah, mobilizing in the sense of convening. How do we bring people together? And Elisha, it's a beauty when you can do it in person, right? Because you can have that authenticity, that conversation. You can break bread with people. And additionally, I like to challenge people and think you can also do it this way, how we are doing it right now, virtually, being able to connect with individuals that, like you, we said earlier, you're on the other side of the world, and be able to have these meaningful conversations. So the mobilizing is the where, really, where and how are we convening and where it's being done, whether it's in person, virtual, and how do we bring people to be able to share their stories. So I see myself a lot as a facilitator in my work, and I love it because it allows me to hold the space and hold that change for others who haven't had that opportunity to be held.
Beautiful. Got it. Got it. Now that's clear. Okay, so the first question, all right. Can you tell us about your approach to community engagement and why is it so important?
Yeah, Elisha, my approach really comes from a theory. It's called the grounded research theory, which focuses on those individual experiences over opinions. So oftentimes in my work, when we're gathering people, we're asking them what is an experience, what is something that relates to their topic from their own personal life that they can share. Let's say we're talking about healthcare, for example. Can they have they had an experience that they want to share about healthcare that the world needs to hear? Over an opinion, right? Where an opinion is something you think, something that might not be necessarily true, because an experience is really hard to really combat. Really, that's where it leans in. Is how do we lean into our own experiences and share those out in the community engagement aspect, because there's a lot of community members I have found over the years that haven't had the chance to really share their experiences around topics. And this approach allows me to really rethink the way in which we're gathering feedback, the way in which we engage with individuals. And it goes beyond just having the surveys, the tell me what you think on the spot. It's really taking time. So we're thinking, 90 minutes, there's going to be food, there's going to be a circle discussion and some ground rules to allow us to dig deeper and meaningfully into the topic that we're having, whether it's, like I mentioned, healthcare, which has been a big one, immigration, or, local government, it's a big one too that people are thinking. And it's front of mind right now. So that's really my approach right there. It comes from that theory that allows us to lean into the experiences and expand from that. And the other piece that I like is that snowball method, which is very scholarly, but it allows, when you're having these conversations to ask the simple question, who else, right? Who else needs to be on this table that we haven't been able to contact? And can you point us in that direction? So my work really leans into that and allowing community members to lead me and guide me while I'm also guiding and learning what is it that we're working with when I'm coming in with these projects, coming in to communities, not just mine, but in different parts of the United States, and just learning. And that's where the L comes in, the listening, because a lot of times I'm just listening.
Wow, that's a smart one. That's a very smart one. Learning from their experiences and making good use of it. And, your approach seems to be very effective and smart. And that's a great one. I love it. Okay, yeah, beautiful. We have two more questions to go. Can you share an example of a tough project and how you handled it?
A tough project and how I handled it. Yeah, I'll go back to my early years as a consultant working here in Madison. There was a small town called the town of Madison that was getting annexed recently. And this was one of my very first projects. It was really interesting because this has been something that has been in the plans, in the works for years. I actually, when thinking about when I grew up in the town of Madison, so it also hit home. And I was tasked with reaching out to businesses, and particularly business owners, and making sure that they were set and ready for all the changes that were going to happen when this annex happened. Funny enough, it was going to happen on October 31st, I think 2022, so Halloween day here. And really interesting, it was working 10 months straight consistently and saying, okay, I have a list of 150 plus businesses that I need to reach out, all with different needs, different structures. What am I going to do? So I didn't use this typical, I'm going to go and send out an email and send out a survey. What I decided is I will take time and stop personally and say, hello, my name is Mathias. I'm working as a consultant with the city, and I want to make sure you're aware that these changes are happening. So I did that for every business on the list. And I'll tell you, Elisha, that was very time consuming, yet very powerful, because it was very much when I was starting as a consultant and feeling, can I do this? The doubt internally, and motivating myself to be like, yes, I can do this, and having this initial conversation, which was just the beginning, right? Because as soon as I started having this conversation with business owners, it was also realizing, okay, a lot of them, this was new. They didn't know about the changes or how could they adapt. So then there was that follow-up, okay, who do I need to connect you with? Is there a resource to the city? The city had given me, the typical pamphlets, here are the resources list. And I wanted to take a step further and provide connection. So I really made it a point that as I was having these conversations with business owners and individuals, I was taking notes. I was writing down, this is what this specific individual needs, whether it is access to a new liquor license, don't know when my new trash days will be, or, what does it mean to be a part of the city of Madison now? I would connect them directly to somebody in the city so they could have that resource. And this was something that was really missing in that process because, again, this town of Madison has been siloed for so long. And then, I don't know, we're November 1st. Now you just became the city, but everything was still, the same location. It was just the name changed from one night to the other. And I was gearing up the business owners so they were sure that they could be ready. The second part I'll mention about this process is that a lot of them were Latino. So there were a number of Latina businesses there. So they needed someone that would be able to conduct this work in Spanish. So thankfully, being bilingual has helped me a lot in my business because I'm able to more authentically speak to the business owners in a language that resonates with them and be able to come in and say, look, this is going to happen, explain the changes and how it affects them in Spanish. I was about to do it, but then I was like, maybe that, I don't know how much of the audience speaks Spanish. So do that little brain switch. And it was really interesting, challenging because it was a lot of moving, but that really what set me up to really start doing the work that I do now. And I think back a lot about, how it was possible in such a short time to reach other folks, because sometimes you would pop in to the business owner would be like, I don't have time, come back later, or they'll be missing, I'll drop some information, and eventually you lean into phone calls, doing surveys, but the work got done, and it got done in a way that was not just the typical, we sent out an email, we sent out a letter, you should know by now. I actually had a personal conversation with them and try to learn what were their struggles and tailor solutions that were going to be effective to those.
Beautiful. And you were not discouraged at all. You kept on doing it. It's amazing, man. And that's very inspiring. I love that. So to bring this to an end, what would you like to leave the audience with? Like a final thought? And to those folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about everything we've spoken about, or even ask questions, how can that be possible? Or also want to learn more about the MLC Consulting, how can that be possible?
Yeah, I'll start with the second part first. I'm always available and love to connect with people. LinkedIn is an easy platform for me, where you can learn from other folks and see what they're up to. The message that I want to leave the listeners with this morning for me, wherever you're listening, is there's power in community and lean into it. How is it that we can involve those folks that are often unheard to be part of these processes and lift as we rise, really? So as you're thinking around how do we find solutions, think of who you know around you and how can your community be part of that result that you're looking for. I'll keep it short
Beautiful.
and sweet.
Yeah, that's so sweet. What about your website or contact info?
Yeah, website's still in the work for me as a consultant that is oftentimes in community that's working, but LinkedIn again is easy,
Okay,
so
LinkedIn.
happy to
Okay,
share that
beautiful.
out.
Okay, what's the handle? Though I would add it to the show notes there.
One more time,
Okay.
Elisha?
Yeah, I said, what's your handle on LinkedIn?
Oh, I'm Lemos Castillo.
Okay, no worries. That will be added to the show note. So thank you so very much, Matthias. Thank you for coming and thank you for inspiring us with these amazing words. It means a whole lot, man. Thank you.
Thank you.